I'm not keen on banning things or on state interference in general, but even I have my limits. And the way gambling has saturated our culture has gone way too far. Since Labour yielded to pressure and gave the industry a free licence in 2005, fixed odds betting terminals, where people can lose £100 every 20 seconds, have multiplied. Ads for gambling and betting are all over our screens, and you can now do it on your phone at home. We've even had companies promoting online games designed to attract children. Yes, it is a fruit machine spitting money for the Treasury, but it's shocking and irresponsible that politicians have so far ducked the opportunity to curb an addictive, destructive habit and have instead encouraged it. Gambling ads on telly should be cut right back, maximum stakes on betting terminals reduced, and gambling ads banned at sports events and on shirts. It will be hard, it will cost, but we must rupture the unhealthy relationship between sport and gambling. What is government for, if not for this?
Well, Rachel, so much for your newfound Liberal Democrat tendencies in that you're seeking to ban this. Here's a few facts and figures about gambling, by the way. 65% of the adult population gamble in one form or another. They enjoy doing it legally, safely.
How do you know they enjoy it?
Well, why do they keep going back and doing it? All right, I'll ask every single one. No, we'll get to that in a moment. With a controlled environment. Less than 1% of gamblers are classed as having a problem. To those people, we must afford...
That's almost 500,000 people, by the way, if you're throwing statistics around.
OK, to those people, we must afford full sympathy, but that means 65% are doing something that they enjoy legally and they get pleasure from. Now to the cash side of it. It's worth the thick end of £3 billion in tax revenue to this country, which is money that's very, very well taken and very well enjoyed. Some might say too much of that is benefits money being recycled. There are 9,000 betting shops currently on the high street. There were 16,000.
That's about 8,000 too many.
There were 16,000 in the 70s and 80s. The number of people gambling,
that's because people are all doing on their phones, over 90%.
Gee whiz. Research by... It's like teaching a group of 14-year-olds. Research by the Gambling Commission showed participation in gambling has fallen from 57% to 45%, and they employ 40,000 people. In summary, this is something that is perfectly legal. Most people do it at a satisfactory level. To those who don't, it's like alcohol. We must afford full... and indeed sex as well. To those who have problems with it, we should afford full sympathy and full treatment. But it is something that we enjoy. It is something that adds to the richness and gaiety of the nation. And it is fun to have a flutter on the Grand National or the FA Cup final or whatever it might be. And you take away some of the colour and fabric of the UK.
I'm going to give you it's fun to have a flutter once in a while, but I think that the problem is far greater than that. It's really becoming epidemic. And we've got
Give me the figures that back up that it's epidemic. I've just told you the shops are in decline, gambling's in decline. So talk to me about how it's epidemic. Look at the Gambling Commission figures, Rachel.
It may be in decline, but too many, half a million people have got problems.
Justify the expression epidemic.
Almost half the population are gambling regularly. I just think that's too much. And I resent the fact that when my children watch a game on television, they are absorbing most of the time, 80% of the game, there are ads for betting and gambling all over our screens. It is invidious. It makes it seem cool and sporty.
Then why are we gambling less?
I think where you're going wrong, Nick, and I agree with Rachel, is that you're addressing the question of whether people enjoy gambling. You know, there are people who enjoy gambling. I am also liberal in my tendency. I don't want to ban people from doing something they enjoy. The issue for me is who gambling is targeted at. This isn't a level playing field. If you look at where gambling shops and betting terminals are, right? The 55 most deprived neighbourhoods are stuffed with betting shops and gambling terminals. The poorest quarter of the population spend double the amount on gambling of the richest quarter of the population. So this isn't evenly spread. This is not about a flutter on the Grand National. This is about betting companies exploiting people on low income to make profit, which is then being recycled very quickly.
Guess which part of London, which part of London one major high street chain is that has most biggest
Tower Hamlets.
No, Canary Wharf, which for people outside of London is where all the city boys and girls are, and they love fluttering their bonuses.
I'm not saying that high-income people don't gamble, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with anyone gambling per se. I'm saying that betting companies are targeting low-income people and cynically exploiting them to make money, and that's what I have a problem with.
Thank you for your support. And we should just recap, which is the government, DCMS, the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, has had an opportunity to do something about fixed odds and all the rest of it, which have, I think, a stake of 100 and 200 quid, to take it down to 2. They've kicked that into the long grass till 2018. So let us see what Tom Watson of the Labour Party has to say about the fact that they're kicking the can yet again on this problem.
I think the problem with these machines is they're in every community, on every estate now. I mean, the bookies have been opening new stores over the last decade because they can only put 4 in per store, and so people, if they've got them on their doorstep, can, you know, there's so many stories now about people losing a week's wages, not being able to feed the family.
And, you know, to preempt what your next argument is going to be, probably, which is that, you know, let's say horse racing would fold if you banned advertising. I agree, obviously you need the tote to run it. But everyone said that if you banned cigarette advertising, that the motor racing industry would fold, and it didn't. It carried on. You know, there are ways of these things being made to work. Michelle?
My problem with this, so I don't want things banned. I think if you want to gamble, that's up to you. But I think that the industry isn't taking responsibility for the problems it does cause, in the sense of, and I'll tell you for where I mean, and I'll give you a real example of something that happened to me last week. But gambling companies are supposed to be paying 0.1% of their revenues into things like Gamble Aware and charities that actually help people. So the 0.5% of people, 500,000%, those people do need support. Yeah, sorry, yeah. 500,000 people, those people do need support, and the industry isn't following the commitments that it said it would to help them. So that's the first problem that I've got. They should be doing it. My second problem, just last week I had an experience with a betting company which shall remain nameless. I'd had a previous bet and I'd won a reasonable amount of money. I decided that I wanted to close my account and withdraw the money. And when I tried to do so, which should have been a reasonable, easy thing to do, it turns out that my card had expired. So the card that I'd paid into had expired. Right. In order to get my money out, the only way it was possible was to register a new card, fine, to get the money onto, but it wouldn't let me withdraw until I'd paid money into the account. So I had to make a deposit before I could take my own money out. Now, I have no problem with gambling, but if I did, I would potentially struggle not to re-gamble that new money and the remaining money. And I thought that was outrageous how difficult they made it to get my own money out.
I just need to give a right of reply to the Association of British Bookmakers, because we'll have a quote off again. Betting shops serve over 6 million customers each year, and the vast majority of people gamble responsibly. We do, however, recognise that there are a minority who are a problem or at-risk gamblers, and that is why we are investing considerable resources into trying to identify those people so that they get the help that they need. So addressing your point, Michelle, the Association of British Bookmakers say they are taking responsibility.
But Michelle's point was, when you make a gamble on your phone, it's almost impossible to unsubscribe, and then if you do unsubscribe, they say, we'll give you this free money, so you bet again.
Have you lost a lot of money on a bet?
No, but I have a member of my family who has had a problem with gambling addiction. It's incredibly hard. It is ranked alongside crack addiction.
I've said they need help
in terms of force.
I'll address that in a minute. We may also need to get out that the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport has said, quotes, our gambling review set out a package of proposals to ensure consumers and wider communities are protected. We've also brokered a new responsible gambling advertising campaign that the gambling industry and broadcasters will work together on. This will include spots in and around live sport. And I would remind you, of course, that you see adverts when the fun stops. And there's very few industries that spend that much money actually trying to prevent you not to do it. But I would have made a lot of money if I put a bet that Carol Malone would have stayed quiet for this one. I reckon I'd have got 50 to 1.
I have to wait. So I'm waiting patiently.
I'd have got 50 to 1.
So is it my turn?
Yeah, absolutely. I've made a lot of money.
The reason I haven't chipped in is because I'm kind of with all of you on this. You know, I'm not sure any government is going to take any action anytime soon, because you've given some figures. Last year, I think betting. Oh, I've just dropped my pen. Betting institutions took 14 billion quid off punters, and the government took 2.2 billion of that in tax take. So they're not going to rush to do it anytime soon. And no one government's to blame. Successive governments over the years have presented us with more and more gambling opportunities. And it hacks me up a bit that even the National Lottery is made to look like a charitable institution, when in fact it's another way to get you hooked, because they tell you about all these charities they're supporting. Mainly what they're supporting is themselves.
To be fair, they do support a lot of charities and community projects.
But the betting industry has the government over a barrel. And what they keep saying every time the government, in this latest review, every time they say they want to do something about it, the betting industry whines that it's going to lose 20,000 jobs and it's going to be very bad, it's going to damage the industry. No, it's going to damage their profits. But I'm like you, I don't want to ban things. I don't want to ban things, you know. But I do know that those fixed odds betting things, they're mostly used by problem gamblers. They're not used by punters.
Which is a problem.
But they'll just find something else. If you close those down...
No, you're right.
They won't say, oh, I'm going to give up gambling. They'll find something else. It's like if you're an alcoholic, God forbid, if we banned whiskey, you'll move to beer or vodka. You won't give up.
You're right. I think you're right.
We're going to get to the break and I'm going to tell Alfred to stop kicking Donald Trump under that table.